BBOR Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia at heart and from around the globe. And hello everybody, today is Friday, another Anything Goes Friday. Welcome to the show. In this episode, I will play the final segment of my interview with Sam Fisher, who is going to talk all about Joseph Paul Franklin, who is a serial killer known as the Racist Killer, and he is a Zodiac killer suspect and the subject of several different publications written by Sam Fisher. And before I play the interview clip, I would like to remind you guys that this weekend there will be a return of the audiobook segments for Down the Dark Lane, 3 thrillers from the Motel, written by me. And on Monday, I will be playing an interview with Dale Julin, who is the author of Catching Zodiac. I had the opportunity to interview Dale at his request so he could respond to the book discussion that I did about Catching Zodiac, so please feel free to tune into that. And because the interview is going to be aired on a Monday, I'd like to give the supporter shout-outs on the Anything Goes Friday segment, giving a shout-out to Batman66 and to River Prawn Pottery, and thank you guys so much for your regular and consistent support. I would like to remind everybody that you can support this show with BuyMeACoffee.com. BuyMeACoffee.com/BlackBoxNid88 allows you to make a donation or a contribution to help support the program, and anybody who makes a donation will get a shout-out on Zodiac Monday or perhaps the Anything Goes Friday segment. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Sam Fisher back to the program. This is even prior to the disappearance and murder of Donna Lass. Do you think that was the Zodiac, the Zodiac / your suspect, Joseph Paul Franklin?
I don't think it's out. I definitely don't think it's out of the question. It's always hard to prove. Because that one there. One of the frustrations with sort of like trying to like say yay or nay is he and even John Douglas wrote about this in his book. Like the frustrating thing is compared to other serial killers is he didn't have sort of like a set way of doing things. Like he could think outside the box. So even though you don't have any other instances of Franklin doing, like, I can't think off the top of my head of him like pretending to be like sort of like this good Samaritan, right? But that doesn't mean that it's like completely out of the question. Like you're definitely dealing with a guy that like it's like, who knows what he's thinking? Like, why in the world would he want to kill a random woman and her baby? That he hasn't interrogated them yet. So the known people, the known young white women that he was killing, like he always had some sort of weird like political or ideological reason for killing them. So I think the small thing that like gives me room for doubt about the Kathleen Johns is like he comes off as a good Samaritan, but he doesn't know what her political or ideological leanings are. But yet he wants to supposedly kill them, unless Kathleen Johns never mentioned that there was something in the course of the conversation that would have potentially set him off. So I guess my short answer is yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I guess I'm like 50-50 on that one.
Okay, though, and we've been talking about some of the unconfirmed crimes, but I have to ask a question in relation to what you just said about how Franklin usually has a political or ideological motive for why he's doing what he's doing. And do you think there are clues in the Zodiac killer's letters that resemble Franklin's ideology and political leanings?
Yeah, really, really good question. Other than the dates that he was sending this stuff on, like I am inclined to think that like I really believe that he thought that there was like a lot of other Nazi-minded people out there just like him, and that they would get these subtle hints, right? So for example, like he mails the 340 on November 8th and 9th. My name is cipher on April 20th, and that like these are all clues, and these are all like sort of like subtle hints to all the other Nazis to continue and to try and replicate what he is doing. As far as like clues as to so getting into the word usage, like I'll go off on like a little list of words that both the Zodiac and Franklin are known to use. So starting with because killing people is so much fun. So Franklin definitely said that. Right. So he's known to have said that in the first prison. Like, and the reason I know that is because there's another YouTube channel in which one of the prison guards was talking about his experience with Franklin, and that's one of the things that Franklin used to yell at the prison guards because killing people is so much fun. He referred to his victims as wild game, and that was in the MSNBC interview when talking about in one of the books when talking about killing Jews with a sniper rifle. Like he referred to like picking them off, like pick off. And he referred to like all of his sniping and stuff as hunting, like in that's according to multiple sources. So he's out there hunting. So there is. I'm trying to think of. Yeah. So there's definitely like use of certain words. Like I know I've read about and heard about him using the word phony. That was definitely in his lexicon. On several occasions. The use of I know he said was it that was I forgot what letter that was, but like when he referred to like like the Zodiac referred to like he sprayed like I think Lake Herman Road he sprayed them with bullets, right? So I know like in one of the FBI interviews he was talking about like using like some sort of like I think submachine gun, testing out a submachine gun, and he referred to that as like he sprayed the bullets, like sprayed it like I can't remember if he used garden hose or not, but like so you see a lot of these like little things like sprinkled throughout, like even what Joseph Paul Franklin is saying, and you look at a lot of the word usage is the same. I don't know if does that kind of answer your question or.
Oh, certainly, but I think that the victim that was truly sprayed with bullets was Mike Michaud at Blue Rock Springs.
Oh yeah,
Now,
I'm sorry.
Betty Lou Jensen was shot multiple times in the back and more or less a little bit like in the side. And they say she died instantly. David Faraday was shot point blank at Lake Herman Road, but he was actually alive longer than Betty Lou Jensen was.
Correct.
And she was shot multiple times. But and some of the references that Sam has shared with us, just for the audience, would be that talking about picking off would be referring to the Zodiac's letter when he threatened the school children, saying that he's going to pick the kiddies as they come bouncing off the bus. Talking about hunting people for sport comes from the solution to the 408 cipher, and it's also been widely accepted that the Zodiac hunted people for sport. And he said that he said, I like killing people because it's so much fun. It's more fun than hunting wild game in the forest in the same 408 cipher. All right, though. So, Sam, I understand, though, that you do have lots of observations about the Zodiac's letters. We've talked about the crimes. We've talked about the unconfirmed crimes. We've talked about Franklin's ideology. Now, you said very clearly that you think the Zodiac started writing the letters in, let's see, July of 1969, the first three letters. We can just talk about the letters in general, but first, I would like to know, when do you think the final Zodiac letter was written?
Oh yeah, good. That's a good question. That's tough to say because I'm a huge fan of Richard Grinnell's site, and he's got a lot of stuff on there that is I guess you could say just like it could small stuff that could potentially be like when was this last yeah I can't say off the top of my head. I mean, of course, like I think like everyone else, like you stop at the Exorcist letter, right? But as far as like past that,
Well,
I
I'm quite
know.
surprised that you would say that. Sorry to jump in, but you've definitely written before about how you think that the Scotch tape letter could possibly be authentic, right?
Yeah. This I think the Scotch tape letter. Like I want to say. Now that was the Channel 9 newsletter. That was in '78, I believe, and that was in May of '78, if I'm not mistaken. Correct.
I think so, yes. Just off the
And
top of my head, yeah.
yeah, and I looked and saw. Now, what's interesting about the '78 letter is that like I'm like, because of course I mentioned earlier I constructed this timeline. I'm trying to and still working on this, like just like timeline from multiple sources on where Franklin was at. And what's interesting about the '78 letter to me is it. Let me. Sorry, I've actually got this up. I'm just gonna look at this real quick. So that was in May of '78. So what I can tell you on where Franklin was at. So March of '78, he shoots Larry Flint. In April '78, he went up from Atlanta to Louisville, Kentucky. He robbed a bank, and that was on April 11th. So now he's got a lot of money. The Channel 9 newsletter happens in May of '78, and June is a complete blank. So I'm inclined to think that like at that time he probably had like a good good stash of cash with him. He pops up again in July in Atlanta to rob another bank. And just about 2 weeks later, he robs another bank, but this time in Alabama. And then, oh no, yeah, and that's what I've got so far. So in theory, so what I am very kind of inclined to think was that he robs a bank, he has all this cash to go off to LA, and then probably runs out of cash for some reason. I imagine because remember he's staying in hotels this entire time, so he needs like a lot of money to do this. So then he goes back to Atlanta to rob another bank in between sending the Channel 9 newsletter. And in that Channel 9 newsletter, you have all these like little things that would fit what I think is perfectly with Joseph Paul Franklin. So he uses very kind of like racist, very racist words. He's targeting police officers, which like wasn't off the books. He had shot at police officers before, and like he has this sort of like he goes into this kind of like he's going to want to target like Sharon Tate, right? What he calls the Judas of the Manson family. So of course Franklin was like a massive fan of Charles Manson. So
I'm sorry, do you mean Susan Atkins? Not
Susan
Sharon?
Atkins, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, please continue.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I think so you've got all these like things in the Channel 9 newsletter that I think could totally be Franklin. It's definitely not off the books, and it fits with the timeline as to when it was mailed. Like he could have theoretically done it. Like he was, and it's like, remember, you've got 3 years of him like sometimes being in city after city after city, like on a weekly basis. Like he is just traveling the country during those 3 years, and he's got a lot of money to do it. He's robbing banks. Now who knows how he did this back, like if you're gonna say that he was the Zodiac, one possibility, like, so I don't mean to like jump timelines again, but like if you're gonna go back and say that he's a Zodiac in late '68 and '69, like I've often wondered, well, how did he get the money then? And so I haven't been very successful in finding any, because there's lots of bank robberies going on. So I've always like sort of kind of like wondered if he wasn't robbing banks. Maybe if you could follow bank robberies going in and out of California at that time, if you wouldn't maybe perhaps turn up something.
Now, Sam, we've had the opportunity to talk about some of the Zodiac killer's unconfirmed letters, and you've talked about how there could be some possible letters that were mailed in 1978. But a lot of people believe that the Zodiac killer's final letter was the 1974 Exorcist letter. That is then followed by a series of letters that were mailed in the same year. We have the Count Marco letter, the S.L. Lay letter, and the Badlands card. Do you think that these were written by the killer?
Yeah, good question. I don't know what the specifics are, so I'm trusting that there's like some reason as to why they're on some of these websites. Now, like the Count Marco, some interesting things like when you get on the that letter, I believe has like a different writing style, right? And kind of like to touch on that a little bit. Franklin was very well aware of like not of handwriting analysis, and the reason I know this is because I know on at least one occasion he indicated like a sort of like this like ability to get other people to write his stuff. So I know on at least one occasion when he checked into a hotel, he faked his arm being broken so that the hotel clerk would sign for him, and he did this specifically so that they couldn't trace the handwriting. So so you have all these letters with different handwriting. I've often wondered if he didn't get perhaps even some of his victims to actually write some of the letters. Who knows if there's like victims out there that have never been connected that have actually like they were the ones that actually wrote these letters. Getting back to so I don't mean to jump around, but like I wanted to touch on so the Scotch tape letter, like I've seen on Richard Grinnell's site where some people say, okay, well, like he mentioned that his name was on it, and that like it has the name Paul. And I've often thought that like there like that taken along with he wanted to meet Melvin Bell, I believe, in front of what was it, St. Vincent de Paul's at some point. Like it just, and of course like he killed Paul Stein, and it just I don't know, kind of a side thing, but like I've always been kind of curious as to why there's so many, like the name Paul keeps popping up like throughout the case. But anyway, that's a little side commentary on that. But yeah, getting back to those letters, yeah, I don't think I know enough about the specifics on why these letters are counted in or out, or there's like evidence for or against. Like in speaking of letters, like I of course I tend to believe that the Albany letter is an authentic one, given the fact that like I believe that there was enough stamps like out there that he didn't have to use, like whoever wrote the Albany letter didn't have to use a stamp with Franklin Roosevelt. And if you look, most of the stamps have Franklin Roosevelt. My opinion being that that was a little bit of a trolling by the Zodiac, in that like his real name at that time was James Vaughn Jr. But I think that I guess you can call it code name was Joseph Paul Franklin is probably what he was operating under. But who knows what he was putting down on hotel addresses. I mean, hotel registration and everything. Like even his car, when they caught him, was under a different name. It wasn't under Joseph Paul Franklin. It was under another alias. So he used just, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea how many aliases he used. So, but yeah, I think that the Albany letter is real, and reason being is because he was living in D.C., I think, at the time in the early 70s. There's another small kind of side commentary on the Albany letter. It came with, like, of course, that coded message, and I've noticed one of the symbols was was the exact same symbol used on a newsletter that he was distributing at the time, called I think it was called the National States Rights Party, or it was called the Thunderbolt. And the logo of the Thunderbolt is like, it looks like a Thunderbolt, but with an extra one. And it seems like I saw that symbol there in the Albany Times letter. So yeah.
All right, excellent. And as we're winding down now, I do have to ask you this. I'm sure you've received some criticism for proposing Joseph Paul Franklin as a Zodiac suspect. And one time you wrote something out in the comment section on Black Box Online Radio when you were being very critical of Thomas Horan's Zodiac theory, which is more or less known as the Zodiac hoax theory. Mm-hmm. And Tom Voigt of ZodiacKiller.com responded by saying that your theory was even dumber. Do you have a response for that?
No. I mean, people can think what they want. I don't think it's a dumb idea. Like, granted, like I haven't even watched the special on Peacock of Thomas Henry Horan's theory yet. I've just been focused on Joseph Paul Franklin. So, but it's like as to what like other people think. No, I'm fine with the criticism. It's fine. That's just part of the investigation process.
Yes, of course. And right now I would like to give you the floor. Do you have any final concluding notes or messages for the listeners of Black Box Online Radio? One more time, what are the titles of your books? How can people find them? And do you have a send-off?
Sure. I think the last bit that we haven't got into yet was one of the things I found most intriguing was after the first set of murders, of known murders up there in Madison, Wisconsin, there was an FBI report that I found that listed what I found really interesting, and I think your viewers, not viewers, but listeners might find interesting as well, was the FBI report listed his tattoos are very interesting. So if you look up what his tattoos are now, of course, like everyone sees like the American Eagle on the left hand and the Grim Reaper on the right forearm, not hand, but on the right forearm. But in that FBI report, like when they first started investigating Franklin, like he had what I think could possibly be symbols from the 340 tattooed on each arm. So if you look at the very center of the 340 cipher, you see the circle and the cross, which the cross comes out to equal the H, and the circle equals an A. So he had these tattoos on either arm, right? So being such a huge supporter of Adolf Hitler, that would come out to AH. And I don't. But then what's really interesting is like you don't see these tattoos mentioned anymore, which I think he either had them erased or he either had them covered up with other tattoos.
Okay, and where can people find your books, and what are the titles?
Yeah. So you can find them on Amazon if you just type in Sam Fisher Zodiac, and the titles are The Zodiac Killer Identity, and I have some other like small pamphlets out there for free download on Amazon Kindle.
Sam Fisher, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Ed.